Good morning, listeners, viewers. Welcome again to the Real Stuff podcast. This morning, we have a featured guest with us who's an author that I know that he's an author. There's many other things that he will tell us about, but I know him from his book, A Rastafari View of Marcus Garvey, Patriarch, Prophet, and Philosopher. I, Jabulani Tafari, is our guest today. I also have with me my co-host Courtney. Morning, Courtney.
Yes, good morning, Flavius. Good morning, I, Jabulani Tafari.
Yes.
And for our listeners and viewers of the Real Stuff podcast.
Yes, Courtney and Flavius. Give thanks. Glad to be here with you.
I am happy that you're here. We were trying to locate you for a long time, over a year. And
yeah,
then
well, just under wraps, trying to survive the pandemic and survive the Holocaust that we are living through right now. The world is in crisis and survival mode,
Yeah. And just a discussion with a mutual friend of ours, Noel. And he said, you and him are very close. So I said, what? And we were trying to get to you from 2020.
Yeah, man, give thanks to Noel also. I was his deputy coach when my son was like 10, 11, 12, and we had a Lauderhill soccer team. And,
yes.
So I and Noel go back far through the football, because, we are football fanatics up to this day.
Including Courtney and myself.
Okay. I still play ball out in Western every Sunday morning,
Okay, wonderful.
But no slide tackling.
I stopped a few years ago, but not because of health or fitness. It was something else.
Okay.
So could you start by just introducing yourself, tell the people who you are, what you do, so we can move it on the road?
Okay, yes. As you said, I, Jabulani Tafari is my name. I'm a multimedia journalist. I've written a couple of books, so you could call me an author also, graphic artist, community activist. That's it in a nutshell.
Okay, wonderful. So you're going to probably say a few words about the first book that you did?
Well, the first book, as you said, A Rastafari View of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, came out in 1996, self-published, and I went all over the United States promoting it, and it did pretty well in terms of getting out.
Yes.
Rastaman view. There are a lot of books about Marcus Garvey out there. Give thanks, and we love all of them. But there were none from a Rastafari viewpoint, which is a grassroots Jamaican Pan-African viewpoint. So that's the perspective that this book provided, a missing perspective to simplify Garvey, so that anyone, adolescent, adult, anyone could really understand what Garvey was all about. Black pride, black self-reliance, the liberation of Africa, trade and business, because he was about economics and black people really becoming self-sufficient. He was following in the example of Booker T and Tuskegee, who was one of his heroes who he admired. So that's what that book was all about. And more recently, why we're here today, I think, is to talk about this book, A Rastafari in the 21st Century, What Life Has Taught I and I. And I being Priest Dougie Smith, who couldn't be with us today because he's out of town in Jamaica doing some work. But this book was written by Priest Dougie and myself. And it's a tribute to the Rastafari elders. Today in the 21st century, we see many of those elders passing on to become ancestors. And as they pass away, it seems like Jamaica and the world is forgetting their great life stories, because when you really read their biographies and see the life that they lived and, you know, the experiences they were put through, the tribulation, because that first generation of Rastafari were put through great social tribulation, police brutality, societal exclusion. You know, Rastafari was a hated set of people at one time, and feared and you know, misunderstood. And you know, just like the Honorable Marcus Garvey, just like Bedward, you know, all of the black heroes have been mischaracterized. So until we start to write the history for ourselves, because it's been said, oh, there are all these books on Rastafari today, but none written by Rasta
himself.
So
yes.
we are trying to fill that void also by putting out a publication that informs Jamaica and the world about the life experiences, the cultural mindset, the political worldview of those elders who brought this movement to the world, which has now gone worldwide, and all kind of people wearing dreadlocks and wear red, gold, and green, and they love reggae music and all of that. But many of them don't know the real roots of the music and of the culture. And this book is giving you a little insight into those subjects.
Wonderful. Over the years, Rasta has took off throughout the Caribbean. Could you say a little about that?
Okay. The people of the Caribbean, along with the people of America, the African black people, are one. So our experiences of having been forcefully kidnapped from Africa and illegally transported across the high seas, you know, piracy, brought to the West, and we were dropped off all over the place. You know, first of all in Hispaniola, which is Haiti and now the Dominican Republic, and then to Jamaica, and you know, all of the islands, St. Vincent and St. Croix and Barbados and Trinidad and Cuba and the Americas, you know, North and South America, where you find, you know, African people in Brazil and in Costa Rica and, you know, in Belize and all over. We really are one. So our experience of slavery and Western domination is the same. And our response to it basically is the same. Where we know we have had to find our roots to keep our culture alive. And, you know, that is what the Rastaman did in Jamaica. And it struck like a tonic note, a nerve that resonates amongst people of African descent. Anywhere you go in the black diaspora and you start to play some drums, black people will respond. It's in our DNA. So the example set by Rastafari and the music and the theology and the philosophy, because Rastafari is coming out of Ethiopianism in Jamaica, you know, from the days of Bedward. You know, a lot of people hear the name Alexander Bedward. You know, anybody that grew up in Jamaica, yeah, you've heard of Bedward. And what did you hear? That he was a madman who jumped off of a tree and tried to fly.
Yes.
Unsuccessfully. So he was a madman. That is the most all of us know. Well, this book, A Rastafari in the 21st Century, the first chapter, you know, in the tribute to the patriarchs, is a tribute to Alexander Bedward, because he was the first of the black nationalist, Pan-African kind of thinking leaders coming out of 1890s early 1900s up until 1920, when he was falsely imprisoned and put in the madhouse in Jamaica where he died. But now a lot of the first generation of Rastafari in the 1930s, after His Majesty were crowned, a lot of them were old-time Bedwardites. They were part of the Bedward movement. They got their political philosophy and their spiritual outlook on life being part of the Alexander Bedward movement in Jamaica. So there is a continuity coming up, and Bedward attracted people from all over the Caribbean and America to Jamaica to come dip in the healing stream, Hope River, in Jamaica, in Kingston, the Kingston side of Jamaica, for those who are not familiar with Jamaica. There's a big river, Hope River, that runs down from Garden Town past Papine through Augustown, where Bedward was, down past Harbour View out to the sea. That river there was a major river back in the day. And that's where Bedward was doing holistic healing, dipping people in that stream that they said had healing properties. And he started a movement now of self-reliance, built a whole compound in Augustown where they were growing their own food and doing craft work, and it was a place of refuge for people who had nowhere to sleep or to live. So he had a community going. And that was the example again now that Howell in the 1940s with Pinnacle up in the hills of St. Catherine, another independent Rastafari commune where there were all kind of artisans, farmers, shoemakers, carpenters, bakers, dressmakers, all kind of working people were part of that commune up in Pinnacle, which was destroyed eventually after repeated raids by the police and the soldiers. The Jamaican colonial authorities sent in police and soldiers, and they burnt down the place, and they took crops, and they destroyed the people's property. All of these things were happening to Bedward, happened to Howell, and has been happening to Rasta people through the 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, until the 1970s. When with people like Bob Marley and Peter Tosh, and the Rasta thing became more accepted by the society in Jamaica, some of that down pressure eased off. It used to be the Rastaman, he was growing ganja and smoking ganja, marijuana. Today the whole world come recognize and acknowledge that herb is the healing of the nation. Medical marijuana is legal. Them still kind of fighting against the THC, which is one of the main compounds. So they're going for the CBD and the CBG and the CBN and all of those things. And it's all good, but it's all in the one plant. And, they're trying to extract and extract and extract. But the fact remains, it's the healing of the nation. And the Rastaman knew that from a longer time and got persecuted and imprisoned and got called a criminal. And used to have to hide in the gullies of the city when Bunny Wailer sing about the black art man. Used to have to hide in the gullies of the city and now become the wonder of the world. Because what we were saying from such time, what these elders that we are speaking of in this book, we profile about 17 of them, some patriarchs, and about 7 of the matriarchs from that time, who, when they were coming up to really bring this culture, they call it a new religion, I prefer to call it a way of life, a way to life. That's what Rastafari is for African black people marooned in the West. We weren't slaves, we were enslaved. We were, as I said before, we were kidnapped, brought here illegally and enslaved. But now some of us retain. Bob Marley says, every time I hear the crack of a whip, my blood runs cold, because genetically some of us have the memory to remember what was done to us, and we want to reclaim our roots. I and I, Rootz Foundation, we have a motto: African minds must never be separated from African roots. Why? What are roots? Roots are that part of the plant that anchors the plant firmly into the ground, gives it a solid foundation so that every little breeze that blows doesn't blow it away. And the roots also provide nourishment and sustenance and water and all of the things that a plant needs to grow and to thrive and bear fruit or bear flowers or whatever that plant does. The roots and a strong root system is critical for that plant to be healthy. Similarly, you know, Marcus Garvey said that people without a knowledge of their history and culture is like a tree without roots, and anything without roots withers and dies. So if we as a people don't have the cultural connection to our roots, to know who we are, the great achievements that our people, our great grandfathers and grandmothers, the things that they did, that European historians try to delete out of their history books as if we did nothing and we are nobody. And they came and they civilized us because we were savages running around in Africa looking to cook people in pots. When I was growing up, those were the cartoons we used to see. Some Africans with some bone through them nose and some big pot with some white people in there, and they are boiling these white people because we're supposed to be cannibals. And Tarzan was ruling the jungle. He had the pygmy bandar, you know, the ghost who walks, you know, and that was the phantom, was the ghost who walks in those comic strips. And then Tarzan was swinging through the trees, the king of the apes. Yo, we had to put aside all of those things. And before there was black power in the 1960s, and people got a sense of black pride and all of those things. From the 1930s, the Rastaman was proclaiming these things, that Africa and Africans, we can be proud of who we are, of our skin, and of our history and our culture, and is being aware of your roots that connects you to all of that knowledge that will give you individually who are listening to this, if you are a black man or a black woman, and you need a sense of purpose and a sense of pride and a sense of self-identification. All of these things is what Marcus Garvey was about and what Rastafari is about today. And we talk about these things in this book, Rastafari in the 21st Century, what life has taught I and I.
Another thing that has gone full circle with the Rastas is the foods.
Yeah,
touch on that. Touch on that.
I tell food. I used to say, boy, Rastaman don't want to eat any meat, and you know,
no salt.
There's no salt, and why you can't live on these things, and them going to kill you and blah blah blah. Well,
weak. You're gonna be weak.
The Rastaman diet was really much more than no meat and no salt and no milk and no sugar. You know, those are things that, again, today, just like with the herb, it has come to be acknowledged by nutritionists. If you want to have the healthiest kind of diet, there are certain things you should, if not eliminate totally, certainly minimize for your own health and wellness. So, you know, low to no salt, low to no sugar, low to no fat, low to no milk and cheese and these things. That was the Rastaman diet. So he eats a lot of nuts and a lot of fruits, a lot of coconuts. People don't realize the amount of minerals and electrolytes in coconuts, and coconuts which abound in Jamaica. Right now, one of my favorite foods. Coconuts are to Rasta almost like what the buffalo was to the Indians in North America here. So it was a source of nourishment, and also the Indians used the bones and the hides of the buffaloes for all kind of practical purposes in their lifestyle. Unlike the cowboys and the Europeans who came after, who shot down the buffaloes for sport and fun, and put the heads on their wall as a trophy and left the carcasses to rot. Till today, there are almost no more buffaloes in North America, where once thousands of buffaloes roamed, right now, they are extinct, like so many other animals and plants that Western civilization, because of their lifestyle, has made extinct. I was the first conservationist and people who are concerned with the earth and the animals and the plants. So also the food that we eat, because we are part of an eco chain. So we were food conscious and nutrition conscious from early on. And I would say many film crews came to Jamaica and used to interview the Rastas in the hills and in the ghettos and all over Jamaica, and were greatly interested in their lifestyle and in their eating habits. And before long, in the 1980s, the mid-80s, I came to New York, and you could find some health food stores. And you were finding till eventually it came to, we have a Whole Foods, which is national in America, a health food store that is selling all kind of non-meat and mostly non-dairy products for your nutritional benefit. Rastafari, I think, had a lot to do with awakening the world to those things in this modern time. Not to say that there weren't indigenous people elsewhere in the world who also, through their tradition, practice a more healthy eating lifestyle. Yes, but in these days, like how Indians and people all, excuse me, all over the world use the herb, the cannabis. It's an international plant. You know, culture call it the international herb. It is all over the world. But now in these times, is Rastafari in Jamaica and Peter Tosh as a Rastaman, most of all, the walking billboard for the legalization of marijuana, cannabis, ganja. My virgin Peter Tosh is the Rastaman bore the pain and the burden in Jamaica so that Jamaica could now decriminalize it and have legal medical marijuana, and that the world could become aware of the benefits of the herb and of vital food. So yeah, Rasta is not only a style where everybody is dreadlocking their hair, but it's also many more things as a cultural lifestyle. And you know, these are some of the things that we go into again in this book, Rastafari in the 21st Century, What Life Has Taught I and I.
Courtney?
Yeah. I Jabulani. Yeah, I see that in your writing about some of the patriots. I see mention of a Rastaman that I am really acquainted with, Ras historian.
Okay, yeah.
Tell our listeners and viewers up a little bit more about him, because I grew up listening to Ras historian at Marcus Garvey statue in Race Course speaking, and I used to enjoy. I used to really be around him down in the park in downtown and all of that. So yeah, just give a little talk on Ras historian.
Okay. Well, the first thing when you say historian, you notice I am smiling wildly because history was a man. We have a picture, one of the picture in the book with historian, and it's a picture of historian smiling because, as we note in the book, he was a jovial virgin, a very good-natured virgin that endeared him to all kind of people, to Rasta people and ghetto people and roots people and all kind of people, because in his later days, history traveled to America and around the world. So he interfaced with people internationally. And I don't know anyone who never loved history, because history was a outgoing, jovial person. So beyond that now, he grew up in a Garveyite family. So he was a student and advocate of Marcus Garvey. And he was a businessman because he was what they call now a higgler, a street vendor on the streets of downtown Kingston. Eventually he became head of the market. They built an arcade in downtown Kingston to try to take the higglers off of the street, because they said there was a problem in the thoroughfare with people selling on the sidewalk. So they built an arcade, and they had an association of which historian was the president, chairman, whatever was the name, to represent and lead those people. He spoke on their behalf and represented on their behalf because he was a leader in the community. And beyond that now, as a Black Power advocate in the mid-1960s, Brother Walter Rodney, you know, the great Walter Rodney, who wrote Groundings with My Brothers, about his experiences in Jamaica at the University of the West Indies, grounding with the street people of Kingston and with the Rastafari, like historian, who interfaced with the university intellectuals in those days of Black Power. Walter Rodney was banned by the Jamaican government in 1968, and the students took to the street, and there was a riot in Kingston. And out of all of that came a newspaper, the Abeng newspaper, that fused again Rastafari writers, you know, Sister Faraika, who was Beverly Hamilton at the time, and historian, and what's this other brother here? That Rasta Silva. All of these brothers were working in those Black Power days with the university intellectuals who were becoming more Black conscious, you know, spurred by Walter Rodney, a Guyanese. He was born in Guyana, but he, you know, he graduated from UWI and went to England and studied and came back as a lecturer, and was mobilizing the consciousness of the people. 1960s were the days of Black Power, when you had the Black Panther Party here in the United States, Eldridge Cleaver and Huey P. Newton and all of those ones. My brother here from Trinidad, Stokely Carmichael, who became Kwame Ture, a brilliant brother. Kwame Ture was a brilliant brother, just like Malcolm X. If you read the life stories of people like Malcolm X, El Haj Malik, El Shabazz, and Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture, these brothers were absolutely brilliant. When you read their words and hear them speak in their analysis of the situation of African Black people in the Americas in the West in the 1960s, 1970s coming up. You know, these were the people who inspired us and who were our leaders and who were forced into exile, or a whole bunch of them were imprisoned in America here in solitary confinement. A whole bunch of Panthers were in solitary confinement for 20 years. Who? What's his name? Mumia. You know, people don't talk about Mumia anymore so much. Mumia is still in prison. They've taken him off of death row, but he's still in prison, framed for a murder of a police in Philadelphia that he didn't commit. But as a Black journalist and as a leading Black Panther Party member in Philadelphia in the late 1970s, early 1980s, he was framed and imprisoned, and is still in prison up to this day. As another brilliant brother again, if you read the writings of Mumia and listen to his speeches, because in prison, in solitary, he wrote countless articles, had countless interviews. They had to have an international campaign. All around the world, people were involved, petitioning for him not to be executed. Why he wasn't executed already, because he was down to be executed. And he's guilty of nothing but loving his people and working for his people, like Malcolm and Martin and, you know, and Marcus and, you know, and like historian, you said must talk about historian. It's the same struggle, and each in our own way. You know, what is this now, March? And they say Black History Month. February, the shortest month in the year that they assigned to Black history, African awareness. It's over. Well, for I and I, it's Black history, African awareness, 365. You know, it's Black History Month. It's Black History Year. So because we are Black and African and are liable to be profiled driving down the street or jogging down the street or trying to go into a university or somewhere, and people want to know what you as a Black man or Black woman or Black child, because it's not only, I used to say Black men are an endangered species, which we are, but now they are trying to put the Black woman on the endangered species list too, because they are killing Black women and Black children. They are shooting them and handcuffing them and throwing them down on the ground and kneeling in their necks and in their backs, just like they do with Black men. So I say, you know, that is why we have to have Black Lives Matter, for goodness sake. Come on, people. We know that all lives matter, but the way that African Black people are treated, it's as if our life is not included in all the lives. So we have to speak out, as Marcus Garvey did, as Malcolm did, as Marcus did, as Martin did, as all of our heroes and sheroes have done. We have to speak out on our own behalf. Hence people said, Black Lives Matter. We have to tell that to the world. I am not talking about the Black Lives Matter organization. That's what it is. Right now, I'm talking about the truth of the statement that the lives of Black people, African people, are as important as the lives of everyone else. And we have to say that, because by treatment that we get, we don't live that. That's not our experience. You have to warn your sons. Hey, son, if you're driving and the police pull you over, don't chat to him certain way, because they might shoot. If you twitch or move to your pocket or dip to your glove compartment to get your license and your registration, the police might claim that he was afraid. He was afraid for his life, and they will shoot you and kill you. That is our experience that I know all of us as fathers have said to our sons and our younger brothers and the people that we know. And we have to remember it ourselves too, because any of us can be pulled over also, and they will shoot any of us, you and me, I and I. So this is the reality of the life that we live even to this day, that we have not got the equal rights and justice that Peter Tosh spoke of. And he says, how can there be peace until we get equal rights and justice? We're still struggling for it.
Yes, a quick question, Jabulani. What advice would you give to the new generation of Rastafarians, seeing that many of them have moved away from the core beliefs?
Okay, good question. That's another one of the reasons. There were multiple reasons why Priest Dougie and I wrote this book. The initial and first reason was to pay tribute to the elders. This is volume 1 of 4 volumes. And this one, volume 1, is the tribute to the Rastafari elders. Because as I said, their memory is fading in the minds of many. And what they did deserves to be remembered by we African Black people, Jamaicans, Black people of the world, and Rasta people too. And many of the younger generation of Rastafari, I say at the end of the book, you know, it's like they're living a pipe dream. They got a overly romanticized and unrealistic view of the movement. Maybe they came into the movement hearing a lot of reggae music. Reggae music took the whole Rasta message and image to the world, but superficially. Because if you don't dig deeper to find the roots, to emancipate yourself from mental slavery. That is the song of Bob Marley again through reggae music, but the words of Marcus Garvey. While some may free the body, only we can free our minds. That is why you have to emancipate yourself from mental slavery. That means each and every one has to make the effort to rinse off the brainwashing that we have all been subjected to by church and state and school living in the West. The propaganda, you know, right now we have seen what misinformation is now. Trump has shown the world what misinformation is and what it can do. The Russians are trying to show their own people right now what misinformation can do. So you should be able to have a better idea of the power of propaganda. Well, we as black people have been going through that for hundreds of years too. Black people are stupid and lazy, and we are 3/4 of a person, and Africa was the darkest continent that contributed nothing to world civilization and culture. All of these things are documented, historical, religious lies that are in books and has been taught to the world. To think that we black people are nobody and nothing, which justified enslaving us. Well, the biggest person who believed some of those lies and propaganda was we, the so-called Negro people. Because if you think of yourself now as a Negro, or as just a Jamaican, or an American, or a Trinidadian, or a Barbadian, or all of these nationalities, these names, it's the process that turned Kunta Kinte into Toby. And many of us have digested that to a nauseating level, in my opinion. So we have become, you know, little Englishmen and little Frenchmen and little Portuguese and little Dutchmen, and we have become wannabe Europeans. Because they changed our name and we lost our language and we don't know our history. So to reverse all of that now, you have to educate, you have to emancipate yourself from mental slavery. How do you do that? You have to go and seek the truth of history and of religion and find out that it's a stolen legacy that Europe and America is built on. Pythagoras theory that we all learned in mathematics class, doing arithmetic and maths and thing in school. Hear about Pythagoras theorem. Where did Pythagoras go to learn mathematics and geometry? Egypt. And there were already hundreds of pyramids built in Egypt before the Greeks came to Egypt. So the Greeks knew geometry and the theory that Pythagoras put his name on. They say, what's his name? I call him Hippocrates. The Hippocratic Oath, the father of medicine, the Greek father of medicine. His symbol, you know, the medical symbol, that snake going around, that staff, that is the symbol of Imhotep, the multi-genius who built the first pyramid, who was also a great physician, who did brain surgery and all kinds of things in Egypt, Africa, thousands of years ago, before the Greeks came. The Greeks came to Egypt to learn about those things that Imhotep had been doing those thousands of years before. So it's all a stolen legacy. But how can you know these things if you don't go and research them, to learn them? So that's what we are encouraging people to do now. Go do your own research. Don't believe me. You hear me speaking. Yeah, I can't tell you any crap. Go do your own research and you'll be surprised at what you find. Go search out your heroes. You hear about Malcolm X? Go read the story of Malcolm X. Did you know Malcolm X and his family were Garveyites? Do you know what Martin Luther King said about Marcus Garvey? Do you know what Marcus Garvey said about Booker T. Washington or Toussaint Louverture or the great empires of Africa? Marcus Garvey said, teach your children to be scientists because we have to use technology. So I am not talking about just singing and dancing. I am talking about architecture and engineering and medicine and, you know, all the sciences, chemistry and physics. We were masters in America. the ironing board, the elevator, the traffic light, the gas mask, the system on trains that used to provide lubrication. All of these things were built by black inventors, even though a lot of them white industrialists went and got the patent for them. But if you do your history, again, you will find how many dozens and dozens of black inventors from the mid-1800s up to about 1920. Most all of the big inventions in America were invented by black genius mechanics. Tuskegee, what's his name? In the Peanut Man. What's the Peanut Man name?
Oh man.
Carver.
Washington Carver. Yeah.
Did how many things with peanuts as an agriculturist and as a scientist. And again, I say Booker T, what Booker T was doing. Right now, Booker T and Marcus Garvey, they says, yes, we can go to other people's school and we can integrate, yes, but now we must learn to do for ourselves and start our own businesses. So to do that, you have to sometimes train yourself and wean yourself away. Hey, the Black Wall Street up in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're in Florida right now. What it named there? Rosewood in North Florida there. Now, there were many thriving, successful, economically self-sufficient, thriving black communities with black entrepreneurs and businessmen and scientists up until the 1920s when white mobs burnt them down through envy and jealousy and scattered the people. And they pushed this notion of integration again. And yeah, you know, can't we all get along? So we try to integrate some more. And these thriving black enterprises that existed up until the 1920s, the Harlem Renaissance, that was Marcus Garvey and the UNIA. That was the political catalyst for all of this cultural, all of these writers and poets and singers and, you know, the Paul Robesons of the world and, you know, what's his name? All of those authors and artists and things was coming out of Marcus Garvey movement, people being self-sufficient and finding out their own history. That's what we need to do again. Find the truth of who we are, where we came from, what our forefathers were all about. And again, this book telling you now the biographies of these Rastafari patriarchs and matriarchs, what they thought, their political mindset, their cultural worldview, their experiences, living this kind of life and talking the things that I am talking now, because I am saying what I am saying. Priest Dougie says what he says in the book also, because we came and we sat at the feet of many of these elders. We heard them speak, we heard them talk, we knew them personally. So we are trying to pass on what life has taught I and I, that we learned from them and from our own experiences, so that we can remain true to the mission, which is being sidetracked and low-jacked and hijacked, and, you know, all kind of people have all kind of different interpretation of Rasta and claim to be Rasta and all of that. And, you know, it can cause confusion to the world and even to people who are sincerely trying to be a part of the trad. And this book is for those kind of people who are sincerely seeking to know more about the culture, and for even people who don't necessarily want to be Rasta, but they love reggae music and they love the culture. So they just want to know more about the people who gave the world Bob Marley and Peter Tosh and Dennis Brown and all of these great reggae singers that the world came to love because of the Rasta message that they were putting out to the world. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel all right. But not before there is equal rights and justice. It's all different chapters and verses in the same book. But some people want to leave out some and just deal with some. So you want to talk about the one love part, but not the equal rights and justice. No, we want to talk about all of it and how to achieve it.
Thank you, Jabulani. Thank you for coming and sharing your book with us. As we are at the close of the program, can you tell our listeners where they can get the book?
Okay, if you need a soft cover copy, you know, the real thing with pictures, you know, there are a whole bunch of pictures. It has color pictures and illustrations all through, so you can see all the different people that we speak of when we talk of the patriarchs and matriarchs. You can email Rootz Foundation, Rootz with a Z, ROOTZ Foundation @gmail.com. The book costs $30 with $4 shipping and handling, so it will be $34 Zelle to rootsfoundation@gmail.com. Then also email your name, street mailing address, and a phone number to that same Rootz Foundation email, and we will mail you a copy of the book. If you want an e-reader and you're into e-books, the book is available online as an e-book at Amazon and also at Barnes & Noble. So just search for Rastafari in the 21st century. It will pop on up. And our phone number, 754-264-2205. Email, again, rootsfoundation@gmail.com, and that will put you in touch with I, and we'll get a book out to you ASAP. Give thanks for the opportunity.
Wonderful.
Give thanks for the moment.
Thank you very much. Courtney, can you do a summary for us?
Well, today we had in our chat room Jabulani, author of Rastafari in the 21st Century, the book that you saw advertised. You know, we spoke about Marcus Garvey, and he gave us the history, actually, of how the Rastafarian movement started. And he spoke about Bedward, spoke about Garvey, spoke about all the elders and patriarchs, and spoke about a friend of mine, Ras historian. And surely today, you know, we got a lesson in history. He spoke about, you know, the struggles of the black man on a whole. And today, you know, we thank you, Jabulani again, Jabulani Tafari. And just hope our listeners and viewers, you know, take heed to the messages that you have brought forth. Today was very interesting, and I'm sure that we'll invite you for a part 2. So for now,
yeah, I'm trying to do it now when Priest is here too, because you'll get the double whammy. This is just one barrel of a double barrel shotgun.
Wonderful. So can you give us an idea when it will be available so we can do the booking?
We'll have to talk on that, Virgin, because I'm traveling right now quite a lot.
Yes.
So we'll have to arrange it. So we can arrange it though.
Okay,
Definitely.
wonderful.
Yeah,
wonderful.
man.
All right, so back to you, Flavors.
Yes, so thank you again, and we will speak shortly. As we close now, I will ask Queen Labafu to give us the Our Father in the Garifuna language, and Tafina will take us out with Teko yourself.
You lead us to Fula. You belong far away away. Ajugwala Lebobu Seru. Lida Mua, Lida Sungfula. Lida Mua, Lida Sungfula.
Well, unfortunately, this is it. Till next time. Bless.
voice makes me weak. All you gotta do is just speak. One word is enough, and I'm no longer so rough. I forget what I was trying to say. I no longer do what I was gonna do, but you're no good for me. That's why me know what set me if it go flee. Me have to take away me say. Me have to take away me say. Me have to hide like a thief in the night. Me have to get out of sight.